This goes in the as promised category. Kind of doing a summary video following up my trip. It's been a couple of weeks now, and maybe one of the questions is why did I stop early? And I'll get to that in just a few minutes. So the first thing I want to do is kind of do a summary, paint you a little picture here in terms of mileage, what I did on each day. Day one was 18.4. I started in 20 Mile, came up Wolf Ridge, and down across Hannah Mountain into campsite 16. Day two, a little bit tougher day, and that was 16.7 miles. Part of the reason that, I don't know why part of it was tough. I just don't know. It just was. Part of it was the Ridge Mountain Trail, which I have immense respect for. That 2 miles, it gains about 700 feet a mile, so you're pretty steady up for that 2 miles. Day three, I kind of went back, and I said this on video, I went back to plan A, which was to take the mileage down to about 15.5. I felt I could do that mileage step down, and honestly, was probably gearing too much around my 3-day pace and not so much around an extended pace. Day four, as planned, went into resupply, and that 13.7. Day five went wrong in a couple areas, and it was kind of my fault and kind of not. Had Baskins Creek been open, that would have simplified life a little bit and cut maybe a mile or 3/4 of a mile or a mile off my total trip. But I've got that calculated based on the combination of the Garmin and the GPS I was using. The Garmin was overstating miles, the GPS was understating them. So I've come up with 23.4. It was for sure over 23. And in hindsight, that was a mistake at that point. Day six, 11.0, I modified into campsite 34. Day seven, I modified from 38 down to 36, which for those of you familiar with the Big Creek area, 38 is Mount Sterling, 36 is Walnut Bottoms. And then on day 7 was 10.4 miles. And then day 8 was 5.1 coming out, just came out down the Big Creek Trail. So quick snapshot, of what did I do wrong, and in a sense, it was starting out too fast. I had plenty of experience on 3 days. I'd trained myself on 3-day hikes, so I knew I could the right conditions, right terrain, and that's without more than say a 4 or 5 mile climb in it, 4 or 5 miles of climbing. 6 miles of climbing, say, no more than that. I could do a 20-mile day, and I knew I could turn that out. However, in that trip, when you start stacking days back to back, obviously a fatigue factor sets in, and that plays a role. In my push for miles, and this really kind of gets down to the nuts and bolts of it. In my push for miles, I didn't take care of the equipment that was taking care of me. And I shared on my gear video that I do carry a mini CPAP due to sleep apnea. That battery needs a little charging. So I have the solar panel that I pull out that needs to catch a little daylight to give the battery enough juice to keep going. And particularly you factor in a cold night or two, which tends to drain a battery pretty fast. And I go into this 23-mile day, which was not an undoable day for me. Just some of it was unpredictable because I didn't know the terrain. I got into that day, and when I hit the end of that day, my battery wasn't juiced. So that was kind of the beginning of the end. The 23-mile day would have been difficult to recover from and to sustain another high mileage day. So, looking at it going forward, I'll keep that in mind. I am planning to complete the loop. I won't do it immediately, but my intention right now is I will probably plan it out for about the same 12 days. about the same time frame. I'll probably start it really where I went off, which is there at Cosby. I would start at Cosby, go the lower Mount Cameron Trail, and in some combination finish Mount Sterling. That will probably be like an afternoon start, just hypothetically speaking, probably an afternoon start where I do the 3 or 3.5 or whatever it is to campsite 35, I think. I'm not looking directly at the map. Do that on an afternoon. Then the next day, do the 14 to Mount Sterling and kind of pick up the loop from there. It would, and really, I would get everything except the stretch back down into 20 mile. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Then I'd probably run back to Cosby on the AT. Plan it for the same 12 days, but at about 170 miles instead of the 215 that I'd planned. And I'd break those days into some different groupings. Drop down to some single digits and stuff like that a little more often. So anyway, that's the future.